All right, guys, how to grow from a relapse. The first thing is to accept that you've relapsed. This might be one of the hardest parts, especially if you've had a lot of time off the substance. However, this is the most important because in acceptance, you're going to be able to really learn from what you did and the mistakes you made and move forward. The goal of this video is to teach you what to do when you relapse so that if that does happen, you don't spiral down and then keep using. And what we see a lot of times is people get back in that cycle of habitual using. So the next thing is to get out your journal. And this is a program of action, and to write down what led up to that relapse. So a lot of times it could be some emotional trigger, it's a life event, a relationship, maybe a fight with a family member or friend or significant other, something like that that brings about stress. So usually stress is the catalyst to wanting to use, especially marijuana. So when I would get stressed, all I could do and remember to do was to smoke weed. And of course that only helped for a little bit. The stress would come back though, and eventually I would have to deal with it. And what happened was I dealt with it once I got sober, like 4 years after I started smoking, and it was a lot harder than dealing with it in the moment. So really learning how to manage stress in a healthy way is gonna be key for staying sober and really living life on life's terms, as I call it. So a lot of times stuff's gonna happen that's out of our control. So realizing what we can and cannot control will allow us to make better decisions in those moments when we realize, hey, this thing is happening, this is not what I wanted or expected, however, I can deal with it and I don't have to turn to the joint or the weed or the bong or whatever your smoking apparatus was to be able to resolve the conflict within. And give yourself some grace, that's the next thing to do, because I know this is not an easy process. You can watch these videos, you can hear me say it, but until you've gone through it and experience some of that pain and really how difficult it is to stay off marijuana long term, then yes, this is not gonna be an easy process. And the more you can give yourself a pat on the back and say, hey, you know what, this may not have been the outcome I would have wanted, but what can I learn from it? So again, that goes back to the journaling. What else can you learn from this experience of relapse? Maybe you had neglected some of your self-care activities, your routines and stuff like that. Maybe you were eating too much junk food, and although that's not marijuana, there is a correlation because it's gonna affect the mood. Was I exercising regularly? Was I eating properly? Was I staying in connection with other people that were in recovery? So these things are gonna be very important for your long-term sobriety. Also, a big one too is, did I start hanging out with friends that were using again? That's a big one I see a lot of times, is that people are like, okay, I've been sober for a month or two now, I can hang out with all my smoking buddies again that are still smoking. Lo and behold, it takes one moment for them to be like, yeah man, you can smoke, come on, you took a month off, you can take another month off if you need. They pass you the joint, next thing you know, you're high as a kite, and then 3 days later, you're back in the habitual cycle, right? The first time might be fun again after a long break. However, if you were somebody that really did want to quit weed at one point and really saw negative consequences, that's not gonna go away with a tea break. That says to me that there's an addictive side to your personality that really kind of latched onto weed. And as much as I wish I could say you are one of those people that's an exception, it's kind of black and white in this situation. And I really had to accept that, okay, this is something that I can just never touch again unless I want this tumultuous cycle of using and then feeling bad and guilty and laziness, all the negatives that come with it. I could not avoid those anymore, and I'm never gonna be able to avoid those. Even if I take 30 years off weed, I'm gonna pick right back up where I start. And then before we know it, I'll be back to where I was almost 8 years ago now. So the next thing is to get in touch with people that have been sober from marijuana and kind of get some feedback from them. Maybe what would they have done in the situation I was in? How have they managed cravings and anxiety and depression and stress and withdrawals in their past experience with marijuana and recovery? This is super important, and this is something I do to this day. If I go through something that is painful or I don't understand, I reach out to someone almost immediately and pick their brain onto okay, where did I go wrong? What could I have done better, etc. And use it as an ultimate learning experience. And that's how I've learned a lot of things. And again, if you would have told me back in the day that I would have had to go through X many lessons that I've gone through, I don't know if I would have signed up for this. However, each time there's a lesson and a painful experience, there's a relief and a release afterwards that allows me to move forward in a more healthy and productive way with new knowledge, new wisdom, new insights, and then my outer life starts to reflect that as well. And then of course I'm doing something else and I have to go back in, and that's a cycle, but that's a cycle I want to be a part of, not the cycle of using and then feeling depressed and then getting sober and then using again, like that's a very low energy cycle. And I like these high energy cycles that improve my life and allow me to propel down my journey and through consciousness and however one wants to put it. So ways to get in touch with these people. One, you can get in touch with me for coaching, and we can have our weekly one-on-one call where I'll be able to support you throughout this journey, give you insights, tips, tricks, mistakes that I've made to help you better understand where you are in this journey and how you can move forward in a more smooth fashion. Also, that accountability too. I found that super important. A lot of people just need somebody that they can, vent to and say like, hey man, this is what I did this week. Being sober kicked my ass. Here's why. And hey, I've been through it, so I'm here to understand and empathize with you, and then offer solutions if you want that can maybe help you in the next week or the following weeks. So that's option number one. If you are interested in that option, you can book a call down below with me in the description, and we'll take things from there. Also, you can hit the link below that for the Sobriety Recovery Resource Guide. This is gonna have 30 plus different resources that you can connect with that are mostly free. The movies and the books are probably not free, but I'm sure you can find them somewhere. The big part of this is the meetings, right? So there's recovery meetings for almost every addiction. And I just went to one before shooting this video. Super powerful, super important. It allows me and myself to talk and get things off my chest, hear other people's experience, and there's no cost to it. That's what's great about it. If money's tight for you, I understand, especially maybe if you've been smoking a lot of weed, you don't have much income coming in, which is maybe perpetuating the cycle to use even more. I get that cycle completely. This is a program that is not gonna cost a dime, and you can get all the help and support you need at no cost to you, and have it be a part of your toolkit for the remainder of your existence in recovery. I'm gonna be going to these meetings as long as they exist because they're so helpful, and I can really just learn and get stuff off my chest. That's the main reason I go. They have a sharing section where you get to talk for like 2 to 3 minutes if you want, and basically you can talk about whatever's going on in your recovery journey or whatever was talked about in a reading, because they do like a reading that's recovery related, and it's really good to say, hey, like, yo guys, this is what and you won't be interrupted either. That's a big part. It's not like people aren't going to just start giving you advice, or it's 2 to 3 minutes of just you getting to talk, and it's great. It's like, hey guys, this is what I went through this week. It sucked, here's why. Or I had a really good week and all this awesome stuff happened, and I'm so grateful that I quit marijuana and yada, yada, yada. So you can go either direction on that, but it's just a great place to connect with other people and connect with yourself too, because that is another part of this how to grow from a relapse video, is learning to connect deeper with yourself. Usually when a relapse comes or a desire to use again arises, it's because there's a disconnect with it. And you might find that when you're really connected with yourself and you're really enjoying your own company, you're in a flow state of life, you're just happy to be with yourself, you have no desire to use or pick up the joint because you're just at peace. You're at peace with who you are. Now, what I find is that when I slip back into a behavior that I've really worked hard to get rid of, or I'm not a big fan of, it's because I have that disconnect with myself. I don't feel connected or grounded, or I don't trust myself, or I'm disappointed in myself. And so all those times are great opportunities and lessons for growth, to where I can connect deeper with myself, go inwards and say, okay, Joel, why are you upset with yourself? Why do you not trust yourself? And really look at the events that led up to this, and then figure out, okay, where did maybe I let go of my boundaries? Where did I slip on self-care, discipline, all that stuff? And that's been a big part of recovery for me, is learning how to be in touch with myself. And then once I figure that out, I can more easily, say, hey, thank you for allowing me to do this investigation on us. I forgive you. You didn't know any better. You did the best you could, and now we can move forward with this new awareness, and ideally not have to experience a similar situation again. And if we do, we'll be able to face it just like we did this time. So as you can see, just hearing me talk, it's a very trusting conversation with myself. It's a very supportive, very I'm on your side conversation, versus oh my gosh, why'd you do this? Blah, blah, blah. Yeah, you suck. And I'm sure every single person has gone through that as well. I used to do that all the time. I was always so hard on myself. And over this last couple of years in particular, I've really learned how to be more gentle with myself, give myself more grace and kindness and compassion, and all those things that I want from somebody that, from a mentor, from a loving partner, all that stuff. I'm realizing I gotta give that to myself first. That's number one. So guys, this video was inspired because we're coming up to a new year, and there may have been a lot of relapse in this last week with the holidays and stuff like that. And I know that the holidays can be a triggering time, and kind of, although I don't condone using, of course, as this channel points to. I do know that, sometimes that having a big kind of final fiesta hurrah before a big event like the new year can be actually really powerful, because then you can enter the new year with a clean slate and say, okay, I had my fun, I got my party, and now it's time to really dedicate and focus myself to this brand new year. So best of luck in the new year, guys. I know you can do it if that is a goal you have, to get sober from marijuana. Use the energy of the new year, whether the resolution thing is real or not. That could be a whole, I'm sure there's many hours of debate on YouTube on that. And I know it's a bit cliche. There is an energy though, there is a spirit of a new year that can really assist in kind of sticking with goals. Every new year I say something, there's been one bad habit that I've let go of and I've stuck with it, because I'm just like, all right, you know what, I'm done with this. I don't want to enter the new year doing this behavior. I want the next year to be free of this annoyance, of this pain, of this stress, of this anxiety of having to deal with this back and forth cycle of X, Y, or Z behavior for this video's sake, marijuana, let's just say. And I want to be free from it. I want, sobriety. I want to be able to experience new things. And I know that if I continue doing the same thing, I'm going to get the same results. So from there, I've been able to really quit a lot of things at the beginning of the new year and stick with it. So guys, you got this. I believe in you. Believe in yourself. Here's to a great 2024. And we'll see you guys in the new year. Peace.